First, the proper theological understanding of the relationship of God to culture. And more importantly, we must understand the relationship of God to his own people within that culture as his kingdom representatives, his kingdom citizens. A kingdom citizen is a visible, verbal follower of Jesus Christ who consistently applies the principles of heaven to the concerns of the culture. Now, if you don't believe me, ask the leaders of the former Soviet Union, who spent 70 years telling us God does not exist. They established an atheistic system that left God out, only to discover years later that they had created a bankrupt republic. When a culture departs from God, its sociology must, by necessity, deteriorate. The deterioration we are facing in our nation today is primarily related to the absence of God and the resultant absence of a thoroughly biblical worldview. We do not have a kingdom-minded foundation. The cracks are not the problem. My wife Lois and I live in the same house we have lived in for more than 35 years. It is a modest home in an older neighborhood. We like it. It is comfortable. It's home. But if you know anything about Texas at all, you know that due to the extreme heat and often relentless bursts of rain, the ground can shift. This is never good for a house. Our problem started early on. A good while back, I noticed some fissures had appeared on one of the inside walls of our home. It wasn't long before I called in a painter to patch them up with plaster and repaint the wall. After he had finished, everything looked as good as new. Unfortunately, though, about a month later, the same cracks began to reappear, except this time they came back with a vengeance, bringing along smaller spiderweb cracks surrounding the originals. Assuming the last painter had done a poor job, I called another one who could really fix it this time. After the new painter arrived and looked at the cracks on my wall, he turned to me and said, "I can't help you." "Why can't you help me?" I replied, confused. "Because you don't have a problem with cracks on your wall." I looked at the cracks on my wall, then turned to the painter again. Yes, the same painter who was telling me I didn't have a problem with cracks on my wall. Then I turned back to the cracks on my wall. He could see the frustration on my face, so he continued, "Tony, those are cracks on your wall. I'm not denying it, but the cracks are not your problem. Your problem is that you have a shifting foundation. Your foundation is faulty. The cracks on your wall just reflect that deeper problem." "I'm listening. Go on," I replied, interested to get to the bottom of this. "If you don't fix your foundation, you will forever be performing patchwork on your walls. You don't need a painter first. You need someone to work on your foundation. When that is done, I'll fix the cracks." He was right. I got the foundation fixed. He patched up the cracks, and they haven't been back since. The cracks I experienced on the wall of my home are a perfect visual image for the condition of our nation today. We can see cracks everywhere. Social cracks, financial cracks, racial cracks, political cracks, moral cracks, even crack cocaine cracks. But until we stabilize the foundation, no number of programs, government grants, or elections will be able to repair the cracks in our cultural walls. We have already spent a great deal of time, money, and energy trying to patch up these problems, but the real cause is our foundation. So the problems just keep coming back, and with a vengeance. Solid or shaky foundation. In Matthew chapter 7, toward the end of his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus told a similar story about the need for a solid foundation. In his telling, we read about two very different men who were each building a house. Same supplies, same goal, yet two very different foundations. One man built his house on the shaky and uncertain foundation of sand. The other man built his house on the solid foundation of rock. The test of these foundations happened quickly when the storms hit. The winds raged and the rains fell, beating against these two houses. The foundation that had been built upon the sand quickly crumbled, while the house on the strong foundation